Who will be this season's Cole Palmer in FPL? Well, it's a question I've asked my expanded panel of 100 experts, with their judgment last season taking the community team to a top 10k finish. Let's get into it. In fourth place is Brighton new signing Yankuba Minter, who comes in as a $5.5 million midfielder. And Fantasy Football Scouts Joe gave this roundup. He is a Brighton fan, so it's interesting to see his interpretation of Minter's potential. He said he was a reluctant sell by Newcastle United, especially after impressing on loan last season at Feyenoord, where he found the back of the net 10 times. Transfer-savvy Brighton swooped in for the Gambian international and have landed themselves another superb winger. He'll compete at first and be used as a super sub most likely, but will gradually earn more points for the Seagulls, breaking Magpies' hearts along the way. And this is exactly the same as we saw with Palmer. Got that big move to Chelsea, took a while to find his way into the team, but then once he'd established himself as a first choice starter, he really did fly. And we know that Brighton's Solly March is unlikely to start the season, so it could open up an earlier path for Minter potentially. So he looks to be a great one to watch. Equal in fourth place and at $5 million, Manchester City midfielder Oscar Bobb is an interesting proposition, especially when we know that Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne are unlikely to start the season after late returns from the Euros. FPL Zlatan has come up with a great justification for considering the $5 million Bob for your team, who could be a great enabler. He said, with no real midfield signing from Pep, it seems that we'll opt for a more attacking formation this season and play 4 across the front. The arrival of Sevilla further supports this. With that being said, Oscar Bobb could very well be the star to break through this season. The Norwegian has been quite active in the side this summer, and at $5 million, I feel he will be FPL gold if he manages to acquire more minutes. Alvarez may also leave prior to the season starting too, which also frees up another spot for Bob to capitalise. So a really mouth-watering prospect there. I guess the caveat is the last player that we've seen break through at Manchester City is Foden, and he's very much been a slow burner over about 5 or 6 seasons. We'd only really consider last season to be his true breakout season, where he became a regular and started delivering attacking returns on a regular basis. Cole Palmer decided to leave City because he wasn't getting the minutes that he felt he needed to progress his career, and what a decision that was. Is Pep going to be a bit more forthcoming with Bob? That's the big question. But at $5 million, even if you have him as a punt for the first few game weeks and then transfer him out, that is a really nice price point. Could he be the one, with De Bruyne and Foden out of the picture, that can cover those that decide not to go with the $15 million Haaland? It's another $5 million midfielder in third place, Manchester United's Amad Diallo, another player who is impressing us in pre-season. 13% of the experts believe he will be this season's breakout star, including Ian Irving, Premier League presenter, big Manchester United fan as well. So maybe a little bit biased in his opinion, but it's certainly useful to see what he had to say. He said he looks very sharp on United's pre-season tour of the USA, with a great goal and an assist for Marcus Rashford's penalty in the most recent win over Real Betis. Question mark will be game time with the likes of Garnacho, Antony and Sancho fighting for the right wing spot, but at $5 million, he's a rotatable fifth mid potentially. And this raises the question, if you are going with a 3-4-3 formation, the 4.5 million midfield options don't look great at the moment, but the 5 million pool, well, we've already mentioned a couple in here. Maybe that's the way to go. And if you're looking potentially at a cheaper third midfielder in a 3-4-3 to accommodate Haaland, then having that strong 8th attacker, that 5th midfielder with the likes of a Bob or an Amad could really help with that team structure if you can stretch to that extra 0.5 million. Now, Manchester United are quickly picking up a load of injuries in pre-season, which means that maybe Ahmad will get that opportunity. Fulham at home in game week 1, Brighton away game week 2, Southampton away in game week 4 are the key fixtures that he could be an attractive option for if he is a starter. Now, this is one that comes down to timing. Emil Smith-Rowe has moved from Arsenal to Fulham, and plenty of the experts have picked him out. 21%, in fact, have fancied Fulham's fixtures and Smith-Rowe to start the season. 5.5 million midfielder, another one who could be a great enabler. And we had this in from FPL Addict, who says, Emil Smith-Rowe has been unlucky with injuries and his game time has suffered as a consequence. But I expect him to flourish at Fulham, and the favourable early fixtures will help too. Just a note on those early fixtures then, we've got Manchester United away in game week 1. That's the first kickoff of the entire season, so it's always nice for that Friday night game to have some FPL involvement as we get excited about the season commencing. Then it's Leicester at home in game week 2, Ipswich away in game week 3 before West Ham at home in game week 4. Fulham, probably one of the best fixture runs of any side, so it is well justified looking at Smith-Rowe. Keep an eye on what he can do in a Fulham shirt in pre-season, and the experts do agree. In top spot then, and the player that the experts are most inclined to believe will have their breakout season like Cole Palmer last season did, is his Chelsea teammate Christopher Nkunku. 25% of the votes. Obviously, we've seen Nkunku reclassified from forward to midfielder this season. He's also seen a price drop to 6.5 million, scored 3 goals in just over 400 minutes in an injury-hampered campaign last time out, but is fit and firing in this pre-season, although he has made comments in recent games that he is really focusing this season on just staying fit, no massive targets beyond that. Tom Glover had this to say: if injury-free, he could easily break 180 points this season, which would be phenomenal for a midfielder priced at 6.5 million. There are a few question marks around Chelsea right now. Man City at home in game week 1 is not the best, but then the fixture run for Chelsea after that is great. Wolves away in game week 2, Crystal Palace at home in game week 3, Bournemouth away in game week 4, West Ham away in game week 5, before Brighton at home in game week 6 and Nottingham Forest at home in game week 7. And this is what I mean about having that fifth midfielder in a 3-4-3 as one of those 5 million options. You could even bench Nkunku if you wanted to against City in game week 1 before playing him in the rest of those fixtures. And the 6.5 million midfielder bracket has plenty of depth. So if Nkunku does pick up an injury, then there's plenty of players that you can pivot to. And I think that's why the experts have prioritised him as the best opportunity for a breakout star in this campaign. Here's the overall standings then, with Nkunku at the top. There were other names mentioned, of course, that we need to just give a shout out to, including Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. We've got Brighton's João Pedro. I think there's plenty of scope in that Brighton attack. We've got Fatou Harvey Elliott, who could be a 10 at Liverpool. We've also got Wolves signing Rodrigo Gomez and Spurs Brennan Johnson, who could start the season at right wing. Another one of those 6.5 million midfielders. Let's get this video to 500 likes and subscribe to the channel. I'm on the road to 35k subscribers by the game week 1 deadline, and hit that notify button, because this week on Friday I will be doing my first stream of the season rating your drafts. And this video has been in members early access. If you want to join us as a channel member, hit the link below and you can get great perks in there, including badges next to your name in the stream, WhatsApp chat as well. Thank you for watching.